So hello and welcome to our first AI Globeducate webinar. Thank you for giving up this time in your Saturday afternoon. We appreciate it. Alexandra is a very busy person and this was the only time she could really join us. I'd just like to give you a little bit of context of how I met Alexandra. And I'm going to have a go, Alexandra, at saying your full name. I know you said I didn't have to, but welcome to Alexandra Dragomirescu. Thank you.
Very well.
Alexandra is, as you will have read in some of the blurb that I sent out before this, she is a professor at a college in Bucharest in Romania. And one of her roles, one of her many roles, is to teach young people how to become the best teachers that they can possibly be. Now, I first came across Alexandra because I read an article that she had written for an online magazine called the International Teacher Magazine. And in that article, she shared with the readers what she did using TikTok, or the idea behind TikTok and AI, to create a new lesson. And I read this article and I thought, this is the sort of teacher that I have always admired. And I could tell just by reading Alexandra's article that she was, although she was a very experienced teacher with many years behind her, she was prepared to have a go at something new. And I've always admired teachers who are prepared to risk their professional reputation by saying, you know what, I'm going to see if I can do this differently. And so I got in touch with her and asked her, would she be happy to participate in a webinar? And thankfully, she said yes. And she said, what would you like me to talk about? And I said, well, I'd like you to share what you shared in your article about your experience with AI and TikTok. And she said, great, I can do that. And then she said, would you also like me to bring along one of my students who was in the lesson? And I said, that would be fantastic. It would be fantastic to hear your story. And it would also be fantastic to hear the story of a student who was sitting in that lesson. So she's invited Iona to come along. Iona, thank you for joining us. Now I'm going to stop, Alexandra, and I'm going to hand over to you. There will be an opportunity at the end for questions. I'm going to keep an eye on any questions in the chat, so please do send them through. And I will ask at the end, Alexandra, if that's okay, some of the questions. And if we can't get through all of them, I will send them to Alexandra, and she will, she's promised me she will answer them all, because she's interested to hear what you think about what she's done. And she's particularly interested to find out what she could have done better. I know Alexandra is a lifelong learner, and she's very keen for that sort of feedback in particular. So, Alexandra, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much for this introduction. I'm so grateful. I would like to say hello to Amalia. Okay, you see her name, Murgia Ioana, yes, but we called her Amalia. And I'm also happy that Mihai, that you mentioned, is here, because he's one of my former students. Yes, from a different generation. And I would like to say hello to everyone. So perhaps we will start the presentation. You will not be able to see me due to the fact that I present using my iPad, but you can hear my voice, and please write all your comments and thoughts and questions. They are very valuable to me. So please, one more. As you see, the presentation is made using AI, and all the pictures, most of the pictures that you will see are AI generated. The title is a metaphor because I believe nowadays teachers should change their way of teaching, and education should change as a whole. And AI could really help us in this direction. Moving on, the first thing that I would like to talk about is the context. How and why are we here today? So there were three main events that happened in the past that brought me here. So the first one was actually because 2 years ago, I acted on my thought. In 2023, I wanted to participate in this OECD conference that was organized in Bucharest, and my school was a part of it. So I sent a message to my principal and said I want to join. My principal agreed, so my class was supposed to present a project involving AI. At that time, that is 2 years ago, I had no idea about AI, nothing. Actually, I had a bad feeling about it because I thought to make students dumb and that will help them cheat. And this is all that I knew about AI. I wanted to be involved, and because of that, I started to take different courses, as many as I could, about AI, mostly on Udemy. So I learned from scratch and I learned from experience, and eventually helped my students develop this project that I was telling you about, and Amalia was a part of it. And no, the fact that I acted on my thought really opened a lot of other things and activities for me along the way, because it was something that really pushed me out of my comfort zone. So this is what I've learned from that experience, that acting on your thoughts is a good way to go. After the conference, we were also involved in an OECD project, Project Infinity. And during the activity, one of my students, Raresh, said something interesting, said that learning is like a metaphorical playing catch, that teachers throw the ball of knowledge and expect students to make the effort to catch it. This is true. But students should also be able to throw that ball back, because it's a team game after all. So the question that arises from this is, are teachers always willing to catch the ball that students throw back? Because this too requires a great effort. And his words made me reflect, and I was thinking about this metaphorical ball that my students throw at me, and I am failing to catch because I'm so fixed in the field of learning. So the first lesson that came to my mind was social media, and particularly TikTok, because my students were highly interested and still are highly interested in this social media. But I didn't even struggle to find out why it is so addictive to them. So what I did, I went to TikTok. I just got there for a month to find out why it is so important for students, and found out it made me feel a lot, generated a lot of feelings for me, like curiosity and confusion and surprise and disgust and amusement. So I felt a lot just in 1 hour. So I started thinking about maybe integrating this TikTok thing into a lesson to make my lesson more engaging for the students. A few days later, than the talk I was telling about, I attended a conference, Dare to Learn conference, and you see here, I put the picture. And it was a workshop with John Hatie, and he spoke there about interleaving, which is a method. And he told me how effective told me and others how effective this method is, but the fact that students don't like it is a big problem. And that moment, the bell rang in my head. I know something that is catchy for the students, and your method is great. So why not combine the two things? I went to speak to him, and I told him my idea. And he encouraged me. He actually encouraged me to experiment with this and also to write an article about it. So I said, I will act on my thoughts again. I will actually write the article. So this is how I came to write it. And then I thought, okay, I have the article. Where I'm supposed to publish it? So I just went on Google it and Google all the magazines that could publish an article like that. And I really like the format Teacher International magazine. I thought it is great. So because I enjoyed the format and the content, I said, okay, I will give it a shot. So I sent the article without expecting nothing, mostly. And I'm very thrilled that it had such a positive reaction. I'm very happy and very honored and very grateful for this. So now I'm going to tell you something about the theory behind the lesson. Because I did the lesson without giving it so much thought. I thought I want a TikTok lesson, and I did it. And later on, when I had to write the article, I had to reflect on the things that I had done. So the theory somehow came later, but it does make sense now that I'm presenting to you. It all comes from this idea that at present and also in the past, our students find education, the goal of education, as a diploma or financial success. And they want to have a degree that leads to a stable job and to have a predictable future. But as we see today, more and more, our future is unpredictable and our society tends to be unpredictable. So maybe this goal, a diploma goal of education, should change also. So in my opinion, adaptability should be the true goal of education, because I believe future belongs to those that can learn and unlearn and relearn things, who can see that the road ahead has many open doors. It's just not just one way to go, but there are several ways to go to what you want. And that new facts should be learned at any age. You should not hold you back. Age should not hold you back, or life difficulties should not hold you back in this journey of education, of learning. But in order to get there, I thought that you need something more practical, like a lesson GPS, because I think there's a big gap between theory and practical implementation of this theory. There are so many nice concepts in education, but if you think about how can I actually implement those in my class, there the problems begin. So how can you actually teach someone about adaptability? You cannot go in front of the class and say, hello, look, I want you to be adaptable and flexible, and starting from today, you will behave like this and you will think like this. It doesn't work like this. So there should be changes involved in our teaching too that would reflect this kind of mindset or this kind of goal. So my lesson GPS would be made of interleaving, because it's a big part of the equation, mixing things. Social media, but social media not in the sense that you can go to social media and get different audios and documents from there and put it inside your lesson like links, because this is something that we already have. It's more like having a lesson that follows the structure of social media. Then you have social emotional learning, which is important because you need to teach many other things than just the subject, than just the topic. You need to teach empathy, and you need to teach self-awareness. So you need this social emotional learning anyway. Feedback, but feedback not as something exterior to the lesson, but a part of the lesson itself. And in order to do all of this, to have them all mixed up, you need AI, because you cannot just do it by yourself. And I will explain it more here. Basically, it's like a GPS. When you use a GPS in order to go to a certain address, you use it because it allows you to explore multiple pathways. Yes, you can go the same address, but taking different routes. The same here. Using interleaving means exploring multiple pathways by making different connections with different subjects. And also social media allows you to create a dynamic learning pathway that is something engaging and not boring. Social media, social emotional learning makes you aware of your emotions along the way. And feedback is just the adjustment mechanism, because as a GPS makes you aware of the time that you have to go there, and also this time changes because of the traffic. Also, feedback allows you to adjust your way along this personalized pathway to your goal, to reaching your goal. So moving on, in the past, we have a fixed route, and we still have this fixed route. It's textbook driven. Yes, we have all the lessons that you have to teach. They are all there in the textbook. And the teacher is the most important knowledge provider, because the teacher is expected to know the subject very well. I do agree with this idea that the teacher should be very well prepared in his field. However, it is not only the subject that should be taught in that lesson, particular lesson. I think in this new direction, we should also take into account that we have to put an emphasis on core knowledge, that is key information. We somehow tend to present our kids with a lot of information, some of which is not so important, and because of that, we don't have enough time to go back and check if this key information is already in their mind. And also, not only key information is important, but also human values and sensibility. That is ethics and empathy, which these are important things too, especially nowadays. And then you have the transformative competencies, that is the OECD, and the teaching compass, that is creating new value. You want the students to be original and creative. That is reconciling tensions and dilemmas through negotiation. You want them to be able to reconcile their tensions and tensions in society, and not to have such a polarized society. And also take responsibility for their actions and see that their actions actually affect the world. So how can you mix all these things together in something that is still a lesson, looks like a lesson, and something that still respects the curricula? Because you cannot change that important document. You have to follow everything that is written there and still go another way or try this different way. So I believe that in the future, AI will bring more personalized pathways and more innovation, and that the teacher, that is the driver, should be a facilitator of the journey. And if you look at the two pictures, in the old taxi is actually the taxi driver that is showing the way, because he knows the way. But in the future taxi, the driver has more time to look at the passenger or look around, yes, and better understand the world, rather than to concentrate only on teaching that particular thing that he's supposed to teach. Okay, I hope you got this theoretical part. I hope I was quick and not so boring. But these are the things that I started to reflect on after I did the lessons and after I got the feedback for the lesson. So now we are moving on to the experiment. So there are two lessons that I experimented. And the second one came as a result of the first, and I will explain it later. So the first one is not the one that I wrote in the article. It's another article that I wrote, but it will be published probably next month or in the following month. Let's hope. So I will start by showing you the ordinary lesson. So we are talking about an accent, teaching about the accent to the 5th grade. 5th grade means students that are 11 years old. So as to give you the context. So this is my textbook. And this is how it is traditionally done. First of all, you have the title of the lesson that is put on the table, on the blackboard, sorry, smart board actually now. Then you have objectives. Yes, you have to tell students which are the objectives. And the first one is to define accentuation. And then, of course, to identify the words that have the correct stress and so on. But you first start by having a relevant and explained example. Like divide the word, and I didn't put the word because it's Romanian, so it's no use, into syllable, and ask students which syllable is pronounced strongly. So they will say, okay, that one. And from this example, you will go to theory, which is definition of accent and also rules about accentuation. And of course, you will have as many exercises as you can, because this is the way in which they can practice and they can internalize and learn about the accent. And also here is the textbook, and as I've told you, the yellow part is the part when you have the theory, and later on is application, which means exercise. But I was thinking about a different kind of lesson, a threaded lesson. I didn't know how to name it, so I thought about threading because it's something to do with social media, those threads. So I presume that the roles changes. The role of the teacher is not the provider of knowledge, is the facilitator. So the facilitator that selects the key information and then refines the AI-generated content, because all the information and all the example and all the things that the teacher wants to show then are put in the AI, and with the help of AI generates text and generates images and generates an engaging format like a social media style. But after this is generated, the teacher should check and see if everything is okay. Then, and the students being the owner of the lesson actually, because everything is done for the student. This is my perspective. Is active and will become in the end an evaluator, because he's the one that evaluates the impact of the lesson on his learning. And he analyzes this AI-generated content and connects it to his prior knowledge and personal interests. And I will emphasize these personal interests because it is important. Then you see that the teacher encourages critical thinking, ethical discussion, and problem solving. So encourages a lot of things that should happen in a class. AI is supposed to support this learning and provide on-demand support, because students should have access to ChatGPT during the class in order to get answers if there's something bothers them or they don't understand a specific topic, a particular topic. And the students should focus on what is most relevant and meaningful to him. The teacher provides feedback and adjusts future lessons as needed. The AI analyzes learning patterns and offers personalized recommendation, and the students gives and receive feedback to refine understanding, and will reflect and define the title and the objectives of the lesson at the end. And this is a major breakthrough in the sense that the lesson does not start by showing the students the title and the objectives, because it is at the end of the lesson that the students should reflect and write and decide actually what is the title of the lesson and what were the objectives of the lesson for him. So you may have the same lesson, but with different titles and different objectives. So, and the teacher should gather all these answers and reflect even more about the impact of his lesson on the students. So the lesson plan should look like something like this. Before the lesson, the teacher, as I told you, chooses the topic and plans the example and exercises and does this stuff, which is important. And AI generates text, images, video, whatever, in a social media format to make learning engaging. And then when you go to the class, you have this discussion. The first time I didn't have it so much, but later on I found out that this discussion is important because it's a different kind of lesson. So the first reaction of kids was to be very much surprised, and then to ask a lot of questions about what are they supposed to do, because they found themselves in front of 3 worksheets that were not numbered, that didn't have any title, and were so different, yes, than everything that have received so far from me. So they were asking questions about what they are supposed to do. Just read the text and write comments, but what kind of comments? And are they going to get a mark out of it? And I'm sure that I will not mark their answers on all these questions that were there. Then we have this individual activity in which they work, but they can choose the order of the worksheets. So there are 3 worksheets, they can choose the order. And surprisingly for me, at the end, it still made sense. Even if they chose a different path, it made sense at the end. Then we have this kind of peer feedback activity, like in a social media, when you post something and you expect a comment, a feedback. The same happens here because the worksheet is given to the classmate, to another classmate. The classmate could look and read, yes, what the other one wrote, and also write his comments, both on the lesson, but also on the students, yes, that he received the worksheet from, on his work. And this is very, very important and very interesting as a result, to see what and how students comment each other. And then we have this kind of a lesson feedback activity in which they have a form, a feedback form. And in this feedback form, I wanted to know what their impression, their opinion about the lesson, and what exactly they liked and didn't like about it. And I will show you the results. And then we have a reflection. And this moment is also important because students reflect on what they've learned, and teacher facilitates this discussion on key takeaways and challenges, key information, and thinks about challenges of this particular type of lesson. And then after the lesson, we have as teacher the reflection and evaluation of the feedback and worksheets, and also plan a follow-up session to address learning gaps. And I was so surprised and shocked after the first lesson that this follow-up session came without any preparation. I just went to the class and started a follow-up questions, which was surprising in itself. So because I thought it was needed, I think the lesson is just one part of a bigger lesson, let's say. And the follow-up session is also important. And also in the follow-up, I realized that we need to go beyond grades and to put a lot of focus on feedback, real feedback, and trying to get our students realize that meaningful work, growth and learning is more important than actually getting a grade. So this is the threaded lesson. This is one of the worksheets. And here it is. Actually, what you see is the definition of the accent, but it is written in a social media format. So if you read it, you will have the impression that you'll find something like this on TikTok or on another social media. And I wanted to do it this way. And also ChatGPT helped me with this and with writing this, and also with the image. And the feedback is also implied here because the last thing is leave a comment with other examples. It is not like a traditional exercise, write 2 more examples with correct accentuation or these words. Is just leave a comment with other example if you like. Some students did it and some others didn't do it, and it was just fine. And also I would like to stress this, don't forget, pay attention that accent can change everything, can change the meaning, because this is why you need to know the correct accentuation of words, not just because it's a lesson in a textbook. So the lesson goes on, the worksheet goes on. And now I introduce Titu. Titu is the mascot of the class. And it's like a character. So I came up with 2 comments that are written in his name. And the first one is that he accepts the challenge. So he sets up an example for kids to do the same. If he accepted the challenge, maybe they would too. And the other one is something to do with social emotional learning, because he expresses feelings about the image that has colorful microphone, that he liked it, but also things that he didn't like. So he didn't like that he was not explained the word hyena in the text. So if you see, it is here in the example. The second example is hyena and hyena. Yes, I wrote it in brackets. I wrote mean, yes, for you to understand the word, but in Romanian, it was not written anything, no explanation. So it's not a word that kids know, a lot of kids know. And I imagine that Titu would not know the meaning of the word either. So he just wanted to know what it means and just asked the question. And there were kids that actually answered to his question, looked in the dictionary and looked for the word and wrote, Titu, you know, the word hyena that you asked about means mean. This is another way of solving this exercise. Instead of just asking, look the word hyena in the dictionary and write the definition on your book, on your copybook. Sometimes, and also Titu emphasizes the main idea of this part of the lesson, that is, words can have different meanings depending on the accented syllable. The second sheet, but they were not numbered, so another sheet of the lesson was this one. So you have it, the whole sheet here, the worksheet here. So it is a cartoon, and this is a story, and it's a dialogue between an old woman and the driver. And an old woman is actually going to see her brother, which is sick, who is sick. He takes a taxi to go there sooner, and he talks to the driver, but the old lady gives him the wrong address because of the mispronunciation, because of the accent. She said something like Hatman, it is the name of the street, but actually the driver corrects her and said Hatman, yes, which is the correct form. And I wanted to make sure that students understand how important accent is in real life. And also, I wanted them to know how to react if someone corrects you. Yes, you kindly say thank you and you accept being corrected. And also, another thing that I wanted to teach them, and it's something to do with social emotional learning, is the fact that when you are in a stressful situation, you have to have a way to relax yourself. For instance, it was in the second part, there was a lot of the cars that were blocking the intersection. So the old woman says that they are drivers without character. Yes, because they didn't think about the other drivers that have to go. And the driver reacts in a positive way. That is, he remembers a song, and the song has also some lines that are related to words related to the accent. So we are going back to linguistics. But he plays music, And he said, I will put some music to have a pleasant company. And in the feedback, because you see, you have this kind of feedback loop, there was a student, there was a boy that said, I don't understand the driver, because usually drivers use bad language when they are in this kind of situation. And I told him, okay, but if he said something bad, would that change the reality? He would be still stuck there in the car with the traffic. No, so perhaps a better way is for him to play the music and to calm himself. So we all agree that maybe this is a good way to go. So as you see, this lesson has to do with social emotional learning, feedback, and also interleaving, because there are different subjects. And another subject that I wanted to mention here was Star Fan Club, because a lot of my kids are passionate about football. And the address, I found out that the address, which is real, the street, is just around a football club. So I wanted to introduce this in the lesson, and there were a lot of students that were very happy, yes, to write comments on this part, because they saw Star Football Club and they enjoyed football. So it is just to make them more engaged. And this is another part of the lesson, the third worksheet. And this is more connected with transformative competencies. There are two types of ice creams. One has sugar, one doesn't have sugar. So there were a lot of questions, a supporting session afterwards, about these types of ice creams. Is it true that there are ice creams that have no sugar? I said, yes. Why? Because there are kids that are intolerant to sugar, and there are kids that are intolerant to other things, other types of food. So I made them aware of things that are not actually connected to the accent, but they're important for their real life. But going back to the pictures are full of images, as you see. And one of the exercise was to write the words represented by the pictures, and the words to be connected to grammar. Yes, to a specific problem in the grammar that was studied before. It was not related to the accent. It was related to the pronunciation part, and with letters che and g, sounds che and g. So also T2 helped me here with a comment, and he said that che, the first ice cream, looks delicious, and the word, and he starts analyzing the word. And I also asked students to check if he analyzed it correctly. And there were students that realized that Tito made mistakes. Yes, because he also analyzed another word, makes mistakes, and they were very willing to correct. And it was very engaging for them. And also, yes, it was cakes and tortures. The examples is the same word in Romanian, torture and torturi, and again, it's a problem with the accentuation. And I thought that part is great because it has this surprise, and surprise goes to gamification, because it says that if you find at least 5 objects and fruits in the pictures that contain the group of letters, and you write, yes, in the comments how many letters, how many vowels, sounds there was, you'll receive a special gift from us. So I thought this was a nice exercise because it's gamification, and they will feel engaged to find those objects and to analyze those words. But I found out that it was not so engaging for some, and some students refused to do it. And their explanation was that in real world, in TikTok, it's not a good thing to answer this kind of games because they are fake. So if someone promises you a gift, that means it's not okay. It's a scam. So they thought that this is a scam too, and I didn't expect this to come, because I was not so much on TikTok to realize these things, but now I know now. But it was a very interesting discussion about fraud on internet, just starting from this lesson or this part of the lesson. And these are the pictures. You see the pictures, and it's on black and white, and also I gave them the colored version because I wanted to check if colors have an impact on the result, if they liked more. Yes, is it so important to have colors or not? And this is what you see. I put the examples, and for instance here, he says that he likes the image because it's funny and colorful, and so far he didn't realize that the accent changes the meaning of the word. And thanks for this opportunity. And then another girl that commented, yes, it's a very useful information, this one, thank you. And on the feedback, and this is the feedback. So the feedback was, what title would you give to the lesson? What is the subject of the lesson? What do you think was the objective of the lesson? Yes, the goal of the lesson. Is there a connection between this lesson and the other lessons that you have so far? And how can you check the correct pronunciation of accentuation of a word? And what is the opinion of the lesson? And then there are some key elements of the lesson that I wanted to check if they like it or not. And one element that they put here, and also this one, was that T2 was involved and he liked it very much. Okay, so these are the key elements. Okay, so as you see, the fact that it was a surprising lesson got a very high mark. And also the diversity of the lesson, and also interaction via comments. All of them got high marks, but the surprising lesson, yes, got the higher mark of them all. Okay, and these are the things that they wrote. It was a fun lesson. It helped us express ourselves. We gave feedback. It was captivating. It was educational. I learned to express myself. Also constructive feedback, the fact that they wanted to have more time to solve the exercises, and also that it was interactive and they wrote on worksheets. Now we are passing to lesson number 2, the one that I wrote about. So I wanted to make things simpler than the first one. I wanted to have the same theory, but in a different format. So we still have interleaving social media and social emotional learning and feedback, and also ChatGPT used here for resources, not actually for generating text, because as you see, there is no text, which is surprising for a literature lesson to have a worksheet with no text in it. All the QR codes go to different links, and so the students provide feedback on the QR code. And this is the feedback for this QR code. They could watch as many QR codes, videos, or articles, because there are also articles involved, as they could in the specific time framework. And the person said that she watched the video and the lady was playing, and it was surprising, it was unexpected. And then we have feedback to feedback, because the classmate commented on this feedback and said unexpected is an exceptionally good term to describe the performance. And then I put all their comments on ChatGPT, because I wanted to see what is their perspective on avant-garde, because the avant-garde was the subject. And the ChatGPT said that the word unexpected perfectly encapsulates the avant-garde spirit, and because it's defined the traditional expectation. And if we go back to the textbook says the same thing, yes? And because the avant-garde is without patterns, without rules, without constraints. So basically, we have the same content as the textbook, but done in a very different way than the textbook would have it. And this is the feedback. The fact that the lesson is new, is interesting. Also, they realize that they don't like avant-garde as a movement because they don't resonate, some of them, with the craziness of it. They like some of the students said that the downside was the potential lack of attention due to mobile phone use, because this time they could use phones. Okay, so the challenges, looking back, the challenges and improvement. Two big challenges: cognitive load and time constraints, because this is something that I learned from the first lesson. There were a lot of things there, and the time was a problem. This could go and be solved by a followed up section. And they also need enhanced guidance, some of them, that is clear instructions. So those 5 minutes discussion is important, and additional support to some students that are not willing to try this non-linear structure. But I'm sure that in time they'll get accustomed to it. So it's a bit challenging for both the teacher and the student. So now I'll stop the presentation and I will invite Amalia to speak. And also then I will invite Ray to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dragomirescu. As mentioned in the previous slides, I think the keyword that describes the lesson is unexpected. You see, my teacher often walks into class and hands out sheets of paper. And at first glance, I assumed they were practice tests for our final exams, which I'm very familiar with. But this time, there were some QR codes and a feedback box. I mean, no title, no instructions, which kind of confused me. Then she was like, please scan a QR code and write what you've understood. I found explanatory videos, articles, and even avant-garde music. Eventually, I chose a short documentary that explained, if I recall correctly, it explained the principles of avant-garde art and provided some examples. And finally, my takeaway was that avant-garde art is about shock, freedom, and innovation, which, ironically, now that I think of it, these principles reflected in the teaching approach. And now I can correlate the feeling of the moment with the feeling and use of avant-garde art, which I believe it's a very difficult thing to achieve. Personally, I don't resonate with the avant-garde art, but I particularly like the approach. It was a TikTok and AI-inspired lesson. I don't have TikTok, but it would be dishonest to say that I don't consume this bite-sized learning, bite-sized content elsewhere. It makes us curious and active participants, and I assume that this is every teacher's goal. We live in an era where flexibility and adaptability are essential skills for students, but what if they aren't for teachers? They aren't for teachers as well. And now I can draw a parallel with marketing. When a trend is set up, companies basically adapt their campaigns around it to stay relevant and appealing. And I think this is the way it should be for teachers too, because it's not longer enough for teachers to simply pass the ball to us without being willing to receive it back. In my view, learning is not a one-way street anymore, and teachers can learn from students, for example, new perspectives, new learning styles, and so on. And to bring this speech to an end, this dynamic exchange is what lifelong learning is all about. For me, education isn't just about knowing a subject by heart. It's about continuously evolving, staying curious while embracing change. And teachers who adapt their methods and stay open to learning from their students create a space where knowledge flows in both ways. And I would like to end with some food for thought. I mean, in a world that's constantly changing, shouldn't a teacher be more than just a source of information, like a mentor who guides and grows at the same time alongside their students? And if students see their teacher evolving and learning, doesn't that set the best example of what life learning really means? Thank you for listening to me. I hope I inspired you.
Yes. Yes, thank you, thank you. And now I would like to invite Ray to speak. I hope he's here. Just okay, if he can hear me, that would be great. I will also show you my screen again. And I will go back to the presentation. So Ray is a Japanese student that I met in the project, in an OECD project, and he sent me a very interesting message, and the message is like this: if we were perfect teachers, we might be replaced by generative AI. Human teachers can also learn from their students. I believe that there should be no end to learning for anyone. So I really connect to this idea that teachers should not try to preserve the image of perfection and think that they can always improve. They should always be open to learning, and that the fact that they should learn from students is a very good thing. Okay, so I will stop and go back. Sorry. And I will stop end this presentation and also open up. I will check to see. Okay.
Alexandra, I've got some questions for you that have been posted, so I'll share those with you. I'll share those with you in a minute. I just wanted to thank Amelia and Ray for your contributions. It's always fantastic, I think, to hear the voices of other people who are in the classroom as well as the teachers. As a teacher, I know I can talk, and I talk and I talk. I don't always listen, so it's it's fantastic that I had to listen today. I'm just going to cough.
It's okay. God bless you.
So thank you both for your contributions. Alexandra, I've got a couple of questions before we finish. Kath has asked, can you explain more about how you used AI to generate the worksheets?
Okay, definitely. Yes, I can. So when I started this lesson, that's the first one, I had no idea how this would turn up. And my teenage daughter didn't believe that I could do it. I have to mention this. She looked at me with disbelief. Mom, are you serious about having a TikTok lesson? Come on. Why? Okay, so I just get the definition of the accent and got to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT, please write me this definition in a TikTok format. I want to be engaging. I want to leave room to comments. So I gave it a prompt. I gave ChatGPT a prompt, yes? And he generated me the text. And I said, okay, please put there also this important examples that I would have used to start the lesson. Yes, because I know the lesson. Yes, I know the traditional way of teaching the lesson. I just change it in the point of the format. So ChatGPT complied, and we had that part. Then I said, okay, I want my students to do this exercise, but I don't want to put them to do the exercise in the traditional way. So how can I do it? Just I will write a comment. Yes. So this is how the idea of T2 comments started. And T2 comments are mostly written by me, but the lesson and also the dialogue. The dialogue is interesting because I want ChatGPT to write me a script, but in this script you should include these very important things for my accent lesson. Yes, these are the keywords that I would put on the smart board for my students to have in the copybook and realize the importance of accentuation. So please write me a text with these words, but also, and then I had to choose the moral value and the transformative competencies. This was my choice. Yes. So this is why I said there that the main job of a teacher is to select what he gives to AI. And AI started to generate the script. I changed the script because I thought it was a bit silly and a bit long. And it was like try and error. Yes, with ChatGPT, this kind of thing, until I got the script that I wanted. And then I asked ChatGPT, now I want 4 images to reflect on the script. Yes, a ChatGPT again managed to give me the pictures, but not from the first time, from the first attempt. So I had to go again and said, no, just modify this and modify that and take the words out. Yes, because he tends to put words inside the image, and I didn't like that because they were badly written, incorrect. And in the end, I got it. Yes, in the end, I got what I wanted, and I was happy with it. And this is how I do it. And also, the challenges was with the ice cream pictures, because I said, okay, I want an ice cream. Yes, an ice cream ad. But also inside, surrounding the ice cream, I want to have these particular objects. And ChatGPT got confused. How can you have an ad about an ice cream and have a hedgehog there? Doesn't make sense. So I tried to convince him again, being persuasive and trying again and again, that I want that particular thing there. I don't care what you think, that is not okay. I want it. Just leave it like that. So finally, I got the pictures, but it was like a partner. Yes, AI was a partner. AI was not actually a co-creator. It's too much, but was not a tool because it's less. So it's something in between. This is how I did it. It was fun. I must admit, I had a lot of fun making the lesson.
Alexandra, if you don't mind, it would be fantastic if you could send me some of the prompts that you used. I know you'll probably have to translate them just to share as an illustration of the type of conversation that you had with ChatGPT. Not now, but you can send it to me at another time. I've got another question for you.
Okay.
This is from Mihai. I hope I've said your name right, Mihai. Yes. How do you think that your teaching method integrates within current educational demands? It is unclear to me how you make sure that each student covers the minimal learning goals of each lesson. The question is in regard to allowing students to have autonomy in their lessons to follow them in accordance with their interests.
Yeah, good question, Mihai. Very good question. Okay, so this is why. So I will start by saying that after the lesson with the accent, I expected everyone would say that the title of the lesson was the accent and the objective were defining the accent. And yes, everyone would get the lesson as I intended. So the first surprise was that there were actually a lot of people, that is 21 students out of 27, thought that the lesson was entitled communication. And the objective was for me to teach them about feedback. And that the lesson had nothing to do or less to do without accent. Yes. And I was so shocked because look, the lesson is about accent. I just did my best to have a lot of words there with the accent. And you see, we have the definition of the accent. It is written differently, but it is still there. It's in the sheets. It's impossible to miss such a thing. So this is why I felt the need for this follow-up session, in which I imagine I will do the lesson again, the traditional way, just to make sure, as Mihai said, that everyone has the minimal knowledge about the subject and I'm a happy teacher. Okay, but the fact is that when I confronted the problem, students said, yes, we are aware it was a lesson about accent, but we are not interested in your accent. It's not meaningful to us. Yes, we found it more interesting and we thought that you thought to learn us about comments on social media, because this is what we do. This is what we need. Oh, it was also about accent. Yes. Okay. Be sure that we understand your idea that accent is changing the words, the meaning. Yes. And Hartman. Yes, definitely. We know. Yes, we know these things. And I just checked. Yes, I put the words on the table and just checked if they got the words there. And they got them correctly. And even, I told you with a surprise, the gamification, I was shocked that only 10 out of 27 did this exercise in order to get a surprise. And they told me, no, it was not that we didn't know how to solve it. We didn't want to do it. Because you said it's like in social media, real social media. In social media, we don't do like this. We just go don't pay attention to this kind of games because, yes, it's scam. So you try to scam us. I'm sorry. Why do it? Okay, this was surprising. Good. And then after, I don't know, 1 week or two, I gave them a test. Not only accent, but all lessons about pronunciation. But of course, I was very much interested in the exercises about the accent, and they got them right. And I was surprised because I didn't do so much exercises with this accent. And I asked them, how come? And they say, yeah, it was such a funny lesson. We remembered the words because it was funny. It was with the ice cream. Yes, it was the things that you told me in the ice cream. And you made us feel the need to go and eat ice cream. And yes, things like that. So that was interesting, but it's a very good question. And I think that follow-up session is absolutely necessary because of that. Just to make sure that everyone gets, yes, the important things from the lesson the way you want it, but also leave them do the exercises that they feel and get to the end of the lesson the way they feel. Yes, in a very independent way, let's say. I hope that Mihai is satisfied with the question.
I hope so. I haven't heard any more. So, and it also illustrates how valuable and important gathering feedback is, like you did, because that gave you an idea of whether the lesson had landed and the learning had happened or not. And I guess that if they'd done poorly in the assessment, that you would have followed it up with another lesson.
Yes, definitely.
Perhaps perhaps a more traditional lesson, because you thought, well, this has gone over their heads. So, yeah. Alexandra, Amalia, thank you very much. Kath says also thank you very much, and I'm sure that everyone else does who's been here. I'd like to thank you all for giving up some of your Saturday afternoon. Alexandra, if people would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
I just left the presentation. I just put the presentation. At the end of the presentation, I will show it immediately.
Well, I'll share your PDF. Is your LinkedIn?
Yes, it's on LinkedIn
okay.
at the end. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry because Ray said that he could not open his mic or his camera.
Okay.
Yes, so this is what the problem. He's with us, but he cannot.
He cannot show himself.
He cannot show himself.
And that is my fault because I didn't put you down as a presenter. So I made that mistake. I have you down as a participant rather than a presenter. So what we're going to have to do, Alexandra, is we're going to have to come back in a few months' time, and you're going to have to do another different webinar. And this time I'll make Ray an assistant presenter as well. So I apologise for my mistake there.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone. And let's continue this conversation. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.